Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. I've been driving for 2 hours and my destination is the Marriott in Baltimore, where my wife is attending a conference. The original plan was to surprise her and take her out to dinner. Heh, how ironic. For the past 3 months, I have suspected that my wife Olivia may be having an affair with a coworker. Whenever she goes on a business trip, training, or attends a conference, she always comes back later than expected. Tonight, I was determined to catch her red-handed and end this once and for all. Olivia and I have been married for 14 years and have two beautiful children, Emma, 12, and Noah, 10, who are now at my mother's house. We started dating our last 2 years of high school and got married right after graduation. With her long brown hair, slim figure, and angular face, Olivia had always been so bright and lively, until 3 months ago. I always thought our marriage was strong, but little things started to unsettle me. I hesitate to question her directly, but I'm afraid I'll come off as paranoid or jealous. Today's meeting happened to be not far from home, giving me a chance to make a surprise visit and maybe catch her in the act. I was at the front desk of the hotel and introduced myself. I'm Nathan Baker. My wife Olivia is at an insurance conference and is staying in room 214. She told me I could pick up a key here. The front desk verified my identity and handed me a room card. I walked nervously to the elevator, a million questions flashing through my mind. What would I do if I did catch her? What should be done about the situation? Should I knock or just go in? Could she be alone in there? Or is it already padlocked for safety? Walking down the hallway, I decided to just open the door with my key and see what happens. Trying to be as quiet as possible, I opened the door to my room to find Olivia sitting at her desk, briefcase open, working on papers. She turned around and sucked in a surprised breath, surprised by my sudden appearance. I explained that I had some free time and wanted to come over and take her out to dinner. Olivia gladly accepted the offer, thinking I'd be spending the night, and said she was glad to have some company. She came over and gave me a big kiss. Realizing that my plan to catch an adulterer had failed, I jokingly asked if I could have a quickie before dinner. Olivia responds suggestively, saying she'll take a shower first and I can do whatever I want afterward. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling guilty for my skepticism and grateful that I hadn't lost the woman I loved so much. We made out briefly, and then Olivia walked into the bathroom with a big smile on her face. I sat on my bed and gathered myself. Olivia's toiletry bag was on the dresser, and I was looking for some aspirin to ease the headache from the drive. In rummaging around, I didn't find any pills, but I did find something strange in a side pocket. I slowly pulled a box of 6 condoms out of my bag and sat on the bed to examine them. After Noah was born, Olivia switched birth control pills, but that made her nauseous, so I got a ligation. Since then, we haven't used any birth control and enjoy the freedom of not needing condoms or pills. Now, a question came to my mind. Why were these condoms in her wash bag? I'm not stupid. I quickly came to the conclusion that my dear wife was indeed cheating on me. I was overwhelmed for a moment, unsure of what to do next. Rummaging through her bag, I found a couple safety pins for emergencies. I took one, carefully poked a small hole in the center of each condom, and put them back in place. Olivia was still in the shower, and I contacted a friend of the family. I told Freddie I needed a favor, and he agreed without saying a word. I asked him to wait about an hour and call me back to say that a water pipe had burst at the school, and I needed to get back urgently. I assured him that all he had to do was make the call, and I would take care of the rest. Freddie understood the plan and promised to call me around 7. I decided I didn't want to spend the night with my wife. I regretted making out earlier and didn't want to complicate things. On the way home, I'll be thinking about what to do, although at the moment I'm not sure exactly what to do. I try to restrain myself from questioning Olivia as she comes out of the bathroom. The anger inside me almost consumed me, how I wanted to get back at the woman who betrayed me. But I'm not a violent person and can usually keep my temper under control. I realized it was best not to let her know that I had sensed her infidelity. By the time we arrived at the restaurant, I was in a complete depression. I told Olivia she could order whatever she wanted, and I'd pick up the tab. She replied that she wasn't very hungry and decided to just order a small filet mignon and suggested a bottle of rose to go with the meal. After placing the order, I couldn't resist the temptation to ask, "Olivia, are you happy with our marriage?" She replied affirmatively, "Of course. We have a cozy home, 2 adorable kids, and a husband who loves me. What more could I ask for?" I shared some of my own doubts. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough to make you happy. I feel so lucky to have a wonderful wife like you. Sometimes I even have to pinch myself to make sure it's not a dream." Olivia consoled me by saying, "You idiot. That's why you came all the way out here to see me, isn't it? You have absolutely nothing to worry about. I'm happy and content. You've done well, and a woman couldn't ask for a better husband." Our dinner was served, and we ate and chatted about trivialities. As the dinner plates were being put away, my cell phone rang. I excused myself to take a call in the lobby so as not to disturb the other diners. After waiting a few minutes, I returned to the table. "It's my friend Freddie calling," I explained. "The water main at the school has burst. I really need to get back to this right away. Looks like our plans for the night are out the window." Olivia has a disappointed look on her face, but I can't tell if her emotions are real. It seemed like it didn't matter to her whether I stayed or left. Either way, she will face some sort of consequences. As we rode the elevator up, a man named Harrison Cole got off the elevator and greeted Olivia with, "Hey, I just went to your room to meet you for dinner," but no one answered the door. He extended his hand to me and introduced himself. "I'm Harrison Cole. Olivia talks about you a lot." I explained that I had come here temporarily, but now had to go back because of an unexpected situation. In the elevator, I once again brought up an issue that had been bothering me. "Olivia, I want you to quit your job and stop hanging out with Harrison. We've discussed this before, and it's important to me." Olivia replied that she had no intention of resigning. She loves her job and feels she has learned a lot from Harrison. She suggested that I should get over my paranoia about Harrison and her relationship. After a brief goodbye in my room, I grabbed my bags and left. The entire ride home was filled with images of Harrison possibly going to Olivia's room after dinner. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. I was angry at what my wife had done. How I wish I was good at exposing cheating spouses, but I am completely overwhelmed. What do I do? I don't even know how to avoid being intimate with her. I genuinely want a divorce, but without enough evidence, I feel powerless. My wife was unfaithful and I knew it in my heart, but was unable to take any action. I can't live with this. I need help. 2 days later, Olivia came home elated, which annoyed me even more. Checking her bag, I realized that there was only one condom left, and it was one that I had poked holes in. Saturday is picnic day at Globey's Insurance. The kids had a great time, but I wasn't looking forward to the day. I suspect that some of my coworkers already know about this, and I feel a little embarrassed. Maybe I'm a little paranoid, but I can't help it. I try to keep a low profile to avoid being the target of crude jokes. Olivia had a great time, talking and laughing with Harrison and the others. Although they didn't make any inappropriate intimate gestures, it was obvious that they were close to each other. Being ignored instead makes me feel comfortable. At that moment, a woman named Sophia Cole came over and introduced herself. "You must be Nathan Baker." She was amazingly beautiful and I felt a little confused. As much as I love my wife, Sophia Cole is like a model stepping off a magazine cover. She had long chestnut hair and big blue eyes. Despite her small size, she was perfectly formed. I can't help but wonder why Harrison would betray such a woman. After a few pleasantries, we agreed to find a quiet place to talk. We found a couple benches about 100 yards from the picnic area and sat by the lake. I offered to listen to anything she wanted to say. Sophia hesitates and says she has some hard things to say. That's when I realized that she knew about the affair as well. To make it easier for her to talk, I said I had just found out about it. Sophia seemed relieved to tell me she'd known about it for 2 months. She planned to serve divorce papers and hired a private investigator to gather evidence. Her attorney suggested that it would benefit Olivia's case if she would testify or sign a notarized statement admitting to the affair. I asked her what kind of evidence she had gathered. Sophia says she has photos and audio recordings, and while she doesn't have video yet, she thinks the photos are pretty convincing. She also has specific times and dates to use as evidence. Sophia expressed a willingness to cooperate and asked if my attorney could help her prepare the same divorce papers, using some of the evidence I had. She emphasized her lack of evidence, stating that she would appreciate any help I could offer. Harrison is going to play golf tomorrow morning. Can you come over to my house in the morning? He shouldn't be back until this afternoon. I can show you what I've gathered, and we can discuss what to do next. I live at 26 Hemlock Avenue in Crestmont. Okay, it's settled. I replied, it's not exactly a date, but you know what I mean. We all laughed softly. I feel very comfortable with her. We walked back to the picnic area and no one noticed our absence. I feel much better. Maybe there can finally be an end to all this. I sincerely hope so. As expected, the next morning Olivia told me she was going shopping and might not be back for a couple hours. After she left, I dropped the kids off at my mother's house and drove to Crestmont. Sophia met me at the door and we walked into the den together. The room had a nice leather couch and a large monitor on a table in front of it, the screen showing an empty motel room. She gestured for me to sit down and asked what I would like to drink. I went with regular soda. I asked Sophia what was going on. Sophia explains, in just a few minutes, we'll be able to watch my husband play golf live and in full color. I guess you might recognize the caddy who accompanied him. When I asked her how she arranged it all, Sophia revealed that it cost her $1,400, but Harrison would cover the cost. She expected the whole process to last about 2 hours, so she advised me to take it easy. She also mentioned preparing popcorn and nachos and would get a DVD copy of the whole thing and could give me a copy. While she admits that she doesn't want to witness what comes next, she also says that she wouldn't miss this for the world anyway. Let the fun begin, she announced. For the next 20 minutes we chatted and Sophia shared with me the information she had gathered about the affair, including photos, recordings, and documents. The details she provided both surprised and broke my heart, completely confirming what Olivia had done. Surprisingly, Sophia revealed that she has 3 large koi ponds in her backyard. I expressed interest in bringing the kids to see it, which seemed to make her happy. Just then, movement appeared on the monitor. As Sophia predicted, Harrison and Olivia entered the room. They immediately started undressing without any pleasantries or foreplay. The video picture is very clear, just the sound is a little muffled. I felt very uncomfortable watching my wife make out with a stranger on the couch. Sophia commented, "Wow, you don't often see a body like that." I forced a smile, but didn't know how to respond. In fact, seeing my wife in this situation left me completely speechless. The experience becomes increasingly disturbing. Finally, I said to Sophia, "I'm feeling a little sick. Are we really going to watch the whole thing? I'm guessing you don't want to keep reading either." Sophia confirmed that she really had little interest in continuing to watch, and we decided to stop watching. Honestly, it feels bad to watch my wife make out with another man, and it makes me feel a little embarrassed to be watching it with you. I explained, but the whole thing is being videotaped, and that's all the evidence we need, without necessarily having to witness the whole thing. I can't say I got any enjoyment out of it, and the plot seemed pretty easy to guess. Are you going to go home, or what? Actually, I was hoping you'd show me your koi pond, I said. I think that's a lot more interesting than watching 2 hours of wheezing. Her eyes lit up for a second, obviously because I was showing interest in her hobby. As we walked toward the back of the house, Olivia reached her first orgasm, and I couldn't help but think that I might be having more fun than my wife this afternoon. Those 3 fish ponds are truly amazing. As someone who worked as a plumber before working in schools, I am particularly interested in pumps and filtration systems. Harrison never helped her with any of this, and she had to hire someone to deal with the plumbing or pumps. I offered to come and help out whenever Harrison went golfing, not for any romantic purpose, but to learn more about koi ponds. Getting to be with her was just an added bonus. The hours flew by, and by the time we got back to the house, the motel room was empty, which meant it was time to go home. Sophia promised to call me the next time Harrison played golf so I could bring Emma and Noah to visit. The next few weeks are tough. Every time Olivia takes a shower, I check her bag and find that there are always new condoms in it. I can't fathom how she found the time to use up so much. I carry a safety pin with me, ready to poke holes in them. I expect Olivia will soon be excusing herself to go see her sister, especially on a night when Harrison is done golfing. The children are always excited to tell Olivia about their visits to Ms. Coy's house, show her pictures of the fish they drew, and share the names they gave the fish. She never made the connection between Harrison's wife and Ms. Coy and seemed happy that I could babysit while she was busy. I made 2 more attempts to convince her to quit her job and end her relationship with Harrison, but was rebuffed each time, and the second conversation was particularly unpleasant. I also started making excuses to avoid making out with her, and she responded by mocking my manhood. It hurt me a little, but it also made it easier to justify what I was doing. Finally, on a Tuesday night, she dropped a bombshell. "Nathan, I've been under a lot of stress lately," Olivia said. "I'd like to take a few days off to visit my sister, maybe a week or so. I know you've been working a lot of overtime lately, so I think it's time for you to relax. Going to my sister's is much better than spending a year seeing a therapist. You have fun. I'll take care of everything. I'm glad you understand the importance of all this extra work for your family, but I'm worried that I may have gone a little overboard. I barely slept that night, my mind full of things to do the next day. I'm glad it's finally come to this." Olivia's sister Ava and her husband Ethan live about 3 hours away. Ethan, while still nice, can be really stupid sometimes, especially when Ava is calling the shots. Interestingly, there are 2 abortion clinics in their town, and I've collected the names, addresses, and hours of operation for both. I even familiarized myself with each clinic's terms of service, noting that they all had a 2-day cooling-off period. Assuming Olivia's first appointment is on a Wednesday, the earliest she can have the procedure is Friday, which gives her a few days to recover before going home. This gives me a day and a half to complete my program, which should be enough. After Olivia left for her rest and recuperation, I started to prepare. I had to explain the situation to my parents and admit my failure as a husband. They understood and gave their support. The kids had a great time at my parents' place, and Dad's truck was useful for moving Olivia's stuff. The attorney promised to have all the necessary documents ready by Thursday morning. Sophia's papers are also ready, and she plans to serve Harrison at the same time I serve Olivia. My only internal struggle was whether or not to give Olivia one last chance to make amends. Though I know in my heart that this hope is slim, Dad and I spent all day packing Olivia's stuff. On Thursday morning, after a 3-hour drive, I arrived at the first clinic and was met with disappointment. That left me with one last option, the Family Planning Center. I approached the receptionist with all the confidence I could muster and explained, "Hi, I'm Nathan Baker. My wife Olivia asked me to come in and sign a consent form." When the receptionist asked exactly what kind of form it was, I admitted that I didn't know the exact name, but mentioned that it was a form stating that I understood everything, agreed, and would not take legal action. The receptionist confirmed Olivia's identity, mentioning that her sister had already signed, but that my signature would be better. She checked the computer for a few seconds, then removed the file. I jumped at the chance and signed below Ava's signature. I noticed that the surgery was scheduled for 11 a.m. on Friday and asked to arrive an hour early. I asked if I needed to pay anything else and pulled out my checkbook and put it on the counter. The receptionist assured me that Olivia had paid the full $800 in cash and that there was nothing else to pay at this time. I thanked her for her help and said it made the whole process so much easier. When I arrived at Ava and Ethan's house, the welcome I received was decidedly hypocritical, almost to the point of being comical. Olivia spoke first. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" I explained, "Mom and Dad wanted to have the kids for a few more days, so I called in sick and decided to come visit you. I need to relax too." The room fell into a brief silence, and I could feel their minds racing. I backed them into a corner, and now they have to figure out how to get out of it. I saw Ava nod to Ethan, signaling him to follow her to the kitchen. Olivia starts talking about trivia in an attempt to change the subject. A few minutes later, Ethan came back into the room and made a suggestion. "Hey Nathan, I'd like to take tomorrow off. I can borrow my friend Jack's fishing boat, and we can go spend the day on the lake. That way we won't disturb the ladies." I agreed. A day on the lake and all your worries will dissipate. Maybe ask Jack if he can come along? Ethan agreed to go and arrange everything. Everyone seemed relieved that things were being handled properly. We spent the dinner hour calmly and continued to talk about various topics afterward. However, there was no intimacy that night, and Olivia said she didn't want her sister to hear about it. Early the next morning, Jack was already waiting at the boat, and Ethan was preparing lunch, filling the fridge with beer. We chatted as we loaded the truck. As I stood by the passenger door, Ethan asked, "Nathan, aren't you getting in?" I told him I decided not to go and suggested that he enjoy the day because facing Ava for the next few hours would be unpleasant. Ethan spent about 5 minutes trying to convince me to go until I had to toughen up. After a few foul words and some physical threats, Jack and Ethan finally leave. I walked inside and poured myself a cup of coffee. Then I called my father, who is always up early. We talked for about 2 hours, completely ignoring the constant beeping of incoming calls. Ethan must have been trying to reach Ava for hours. When Ava and Olivia woke up, I said goodbye to my father and prepared myself for the upcoming confrontation. I cleared the missed call log on the landline. In less than 2 hours, it was time for Olivia and Ava to head to the family planning center. I'll be facing two angry women. I made another pot of coffee for my wife and her sister. Olivia loudly questioned, "Nathan, what the hell are you doing here?" I explained, "I didn't want to go fishing, so I decided to stay with you guys. We can go find a nice place to have lunch together. I have to leave tonight and don't want to waste my time on the boat with Ethan and Jack." Olivia declined the offer. "Ava and I have plans for today, and we prefer to go on our own. I'll go out with you anytime, but I only get to see Ava a couple times a year." She also noted that I would be here all week. I tried to convince Olivia that since I'd come all this way, I could at least take half a day to spend with me. I suggested that she could spend the rest of her time doing sisterhood activities. Ava left the room and dialed a number on her cell phone. We can hear her on the phone raging at Ethan as if he's committed the crime of the century. I feel bad for the guy, but after all, he was the one who chose to marry her. Olivia stated that she and Ava didn't want me to follow them out. She emphasized that they had already made plans that didn't include me. I agreed to hear about their plans for the day before deciding if I was interested or finding something else to do to pass the time. I expressed my confusion because they have a whole week and I only have today. I jokingly asked, "It's not like you're going to meet some guy, is it?" Olivia explains, "We're not meeting men. We were going to go shopping for intimate things like lingerie, panties, and sexy pajamas. These are the things we don't want a man staring around." I suggested, "Most of these stores are in shopping centers. I can go along, but I won't bother you. I can find something to do with myself while you guys try on clothes. And I won't bother you at lunchtime. To make up for the trouble I've caused you, I can take you to a great place for dinner." At that moment, Ava stood in the doorway, glaring at me, not saying a word. Olivia realizes she can't convince me and seems ready to give up. They were both still in their pajamas, and finally Olivia stood up. Olivia says she's going to change and leaves the room. Ava looks at me, calls me a complete idiot, and follows Olivia up the stairs. About 20 minutes later, the light on the landline came on, indicating that someone upstairs was on the phone. Time was ticking away, and they still had an hour before they were supposed to leave for the clinic. I contemplated what to do next. If they try to leave without me, I plan to follow them and let them know I'm watching. However, I think it's unlikely that they will do so. 20 minutes later, they both came downstairs. Olivia said with a hint of impatience, "Well, it's time to go shopping." Honestly, it was easier than I expected. I'm guessing that call upstairs was probably to the family planning center, possibly to reschedule the appointment. Since I said I was leaving tonight, they probably thought it best to wait until I was gone. I'm not trying to stop Olivia from having an abortion. I'm just trying to make the whole process more difficult. I insisted on taking my car because I wanted to drive myself. I didn't want them to leave me miles from the house. I pulled into a gas station. I filled it up, checked the oil and water, and cleaned the windshield. This is the longest time I've ever spent maintaining a car. They both just sat in the car and sulked. When we arrived at the shopping center, I parked far away so we'd have to walk a bit more. Once we entered the shopping center, I basically ignored them. I keep an eye on them, but don't really care what they're doing or buying. They didn't seem very happy. Most of the time they were talking to each other and making various gestures. They bought something just to prove to me that they were actually shopping. I tried to hide, but remained within sight. It was clear that there was some serious discussion going on between them. Appointment time passed. I managed to delay the inevitable. I know she's going to end up having that surgery, so I'm not going to interfere any further. Shortly after noon, the girls returned to the atrium of the shopping center where we had arranged to meet. We went to lunch at the Olive Garden restaurant and got back to the house about 2 p.m. There was little conversation during lunch or on the way home. I snickered inside all the way. I know these two women are mad at me right now, but I don't care one bit. It's a great feeling. I grabbed a beer and got comfortable on the couch. Ethan finally returns, and Ava verbally humiliates him for about 30 minutes. He managed to slip away, disappearing for a couple hours and not returning until dinner time. After the ladies cleaned up the dishes, I asked to speak with Olivia alone in the kitchen. Ava snorted, and they both walked into the living room. Olivia is still angry due to what happened earlier in the day, and I have a feeling she won't be easy to deal with. I got right to the point and said, "Olivia, I want you to quit your job and stop hanging out with Harrison Cole." She gritted her teeth and tried to refrain from hitting me. She insisted that she didn't want to hear about it again and was annoyed that I brought it up again and again. Olivia refused to waste time answering me, saying that I already knew the answer and that it wouldn't change. She gave me an ultimatum: either change the subject or leave. I pulled a legal-sized envelope out of the manila envelope next to my chair. I explained, "I've asked you at least 10 times in the last 2 months, and each time you've refused. Here are the divorce papers. You can sign and mail it. Inside is a stamped return envelope. If you want to show it to a lawyer, be my guest." She glared at me, leaned over the table, and said irritably, "You can't divorce me just because I won't quit my job or don't hang out with the friends you want. You need grounds for divorce, and you don't have any. It's time for you to go home and get your thoughts in order. I'm your wife, and I'm not going to give up my family just because you don't like where I work." I responded, once again pulling a stack of photos from the manila envelope. I put 6 pictures of Olivia and Harrison together on the table and asked, "Did you have sex with him?" No answer. I put up 6 more pictures of them in various poses. As I continued to put pictures on the table, she started screaming for me to stop. I admitted, "I know you think I'm secretly spying on you." She scolded me, "You sneaky bastard. You're disgusting. Why don't you just talk to me? You're like a pervert. Your whining makes me sick." Just then, my cell phone rang. I answered the phone and learned that my father would be at Ava's house in 10 minutes with Olivia's things. After hanging up, she asked who was calling. I told her, "It's my dad. He's sending your stuff to Ava here. The locks on our house have been changed. If there's anything else you've forgotten, let me know and I can get it for you." She was silent. I handed her the title to the car and said I had signed the transfer to her. In an envelope, I put half the money in our bank account, about $200,000. I explained the arrangements for visitation with the children. Once a week, with an overnight stay once a month if she would sign a notarized statement admitting to the affair. I added, "I have a DVD of you and Harrison at the Scandia Motel on May 10th that is 2 hours long and contains everything shown in the photos." As I collected photos, I clarified, "I didn't take any of these photos. I don't care about your behavior, I just don't like being lied to. Finally, I want to give you a memento of our love." I removed the safety pin from my keychain and slid it across the table. I explained to Olivia, "I've used this pin to poke holes in all of our condoms for the past 2 months. In the last 2 weeks alone, you've used 48 condoms. Harrison is much luckier than I ever dreamed." She responded angrily, "You pathetic coward. That's the meanest thing I've ever heard." I countered, "The most despicable thing is to have an affair outside of marriage. I may be a fool, but you're a liar." I told her I had to go because my father had just driven up. I noticed that she never apologized or expressed regret for her actions. As I left the room, I said to her, "Goodbye and good luck with your surgery on Monday." She finally started to cry. Ava rushes in to comfort her, and Ethan follows me to the front porch. Ethan questioned me, "How can you give up 14 years of marriage because of a misunderstanding?" I asked him rhetorically, "So tell me, why did my wife come to see you and Ava?" Ethan looks down at his feet and seems to be thinking. Finally, he apologized and offered to help me unload. It took us about 10 minutes to unload while Olivia was still crying in the kitchen. I don't know what she's crying about, and frankly, I don't care. The next week, both Harrison and Olivia were fired from Globies. Olivia refused to sign the affidavit. Counsel said our case was strong enough even without her affidavit. After that night, I never heard from my dear wife again. She doesn't come to see the kids, but the kids don't seem to care because they are building a good relationship with Sophia. We go out together a lot, like a family. We didn't have any intimacy or even discuss the subject. We don't want to do anything that might affect the divorce process. The kids and I are learning a lot about koi, and we are having a great time. Finally, for months later, both couples' divorces were finalized. Olivia never contested her divorce, but Harrison has been fighting it fiercely. He lost his house, all his investments, and had to pay large monthly alimony payments. A few days before Christmas, Olivia came to the house and brought gifts for the children. I was polite and didn't do anything to ruin the festivities. She stayed for about 2 hours and then quietly left. There was no talk of divorce or extramarital affairs between us. I listed the house for sale, and 2 months later we moved in with Sophia. Harrison got a job in Omaha and Olivia went with him. For months later, Harrison disappeared without telling her where he'd gone. Olivia moves back in with Ava when Ethan goes to work on the pipeline in Alaska. 2 months later, Ava received her divorce papers in the mail. These two sisters now have company. Sophia and I get along great. She loved the kids and they loved her. We're planning to get married in June, and we've been practicing every minute for the honeymoon. As for Harrison, he had an unfortunate encounter outside his favorite bar and was injured when he was robbed. He broke 5 ribs, shattered his kneecaps, and lost his wallet and a testicle. It seems that the wheels of fate have finally turned back. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.